Good to see everybody bright and early. Probably had a good time out in Boston last night. I'm going to walk through what Actian is briefly and what the Avalanche service is. But I do have to say I walked into this hotel lobby and I didn't realize until this morning that in the lobby 26 years ago is where I met my wife. So I was like, I had to take a picture of it and send it to her to prove that that's how we met. But I hope you all have one of these or had one of these. Enjoyed the donuts, compliments of Actian. I know those are yummy and probably have a lot of calories in them, but I'm sure you would much rather have one of these in the morning. But we can't do that right now because it's not Sunday morning, but we'll go from there. So Actian, if you don't know, we've been around the block quite a bit, 20 plus years, and analytics, integration, IoT, edge computing. We've got thousands and thousands of customers worldwide. We've got support organizations all over the globe. We've got all kinds of customers in production with mission critical applications running a variety of systems. Everything from Lufthansa to Irish Revenue to FedEx. If we go down, Lufthansa has a lot of problems. If ADP goes down, people don't get paid. So these things are always running, and they are a variety of applications and technologies from Actian. And what we've done just recently is introduced a new service in the cloud, and it's called Avalanche, and that's what I'm here to talk about. But I just wanted to give you a little brief overview of Actian and what people do with this. Now I can give you hundreds and hundreds of logos, but I'm not going to. But we pretty much play in just about every vertical. So what has been going on in the industry is, people have gone out over the years and bought all sorts of systems. In the 90s, the database wars were going on. In the 2000s, the appliances came out. The cloud came out at around 2007, 2010. People started adopting that. But what happens is the legacy systems, while they're all good, they were designed for certain application or certain data sets, certain use case, user community. At one point, time marches forward, and they begin to slow down. New data sources come into play. New workloads are thrown at it that it just wasn't architected for. And it's very expensive to manage and work, and eventually it just gets slower and slower. So that's sort of the legacy world which we've all been in. But if you roll forward a little bit, the cloud comes into play. And there was a gentleman yesterday that said June 15th, 2017 is when the cloud sort of became the de facto platform to work on, which is great. But the cloud, while it's easy to use and it's got all these nice bells and whistles, it promises a lot. It promises great data integration. It promises, great performance at scale. You only pay for what you use. It's easy to manage. My son in high school can click and spin up a 100-node cluster. Yay, good for him. But there's a problem with all that. All those Legos you have to play with is that while they're all good and easy to use, the problem is it doesn't necessarily live up to the hype. While there are a lot of companies that have successfully invested in the cloud and spent tens of millions of dollars and tens and hundreds of people to make it work, a lot of companies are ending up with siloed data. They have data on-prem that doesn't go to the cloud. They've got cloud-only data. They got hybrid data. Performance typically will slow as your workloads go up in terms of concurrency. What you might start out with is great, but as you grow into a more heavyweight production environment, your budget gets blown out. We're beginning to hear a lot of customers that are having a great time in the cloud. Everything's working, but we budgeted for $1 million and we're spending $3 to $4 million. That's a tough nut to swallow, especially in front of a CFO or the board. So what we did was, at Actian, we came up with an offering, a fully managed service offering called Avalanche that looks at those problems that the cloud has and what people are experiencing now. And we address certain things from performance at scale, operational costs, a fully managed service with built-in connectors as a service, and the ability to handle the hybrid data aspects of how you do this in the cloud and how do you do it on-prem, how do you do it with your own virtual private cloud, and so on. And that's what Avalanche is in a nutshell. Now, I'll touch on each one of these 4 bullets. You know, in terms of the performance at scale, scale can be measured in a variety of ways, from not just data, but scale in terms of people, scale in terms of cost, scale in terms of complexity. And what the Avalanche difference is in this case is we've got a lot of interesting technologies built into the product to help you scale from beginning entry point all the way up to full production, whether you're starting out in the tens of terabytes and scaling up to 100 terabytes or beyond, that's fine. You're starting out with a small user community, 5, 10 users, scaling up to 100,000, 10,000 users, that's fine as well. And the whole idea behind this performance at scale is that it's also delivered with a great price performance number. You see the bold 9x superior price performance, which I'll talk about in a slide later on. But the idea behind all this is that under the underpinnings of Avalanche have a lot of engineering technologies built in to handle this price performance at scale point. So one of the other things we've done is looked at the hybrid model. And hybrid can be defined in a lot of ways. Hybrid is defined as I'm running partly in the cloud, I'm running partly on-prem. I've got data sources all over the place. I may be half in Azure, I may be half in AWS. I have different databases out there. How do I address all that? The nice thing about the Avalanche offering in terms of hybrid is that the same experience you have in the cloud is the same experience you'll have on-prem. So you don't have to relearn a second database, a third database. You can run the same, your same application on-prem. You can do it in AWS, you can do it in Azure, and soon to be Google Cloud. The idea behind it is that you don't have to retrain people on new technology stacks over and over again. Plus, you get the ability to go out and access data from different sources. So on-prem to cloud, cloud to on-prem, cloud to cloud. All that hybrid capability and data access is built into Avalanche, which makes it easy to move data around, easy for users to experience the environment. And one of the last bits, which is probably one of the more important ones, it's fully managed. And fully managed means we handle the production aspects of Avalanche. You don't have to. So we're going to do the backups, the restores, DR. We'll do the patching, the logging. We'll make sure the thing is running 24/7. We have all the logging going on. We are responsible for your SLAs, and all you're responsible for is your data. And that's what fully managed means. Now, what we've done in Avalanche, you can think of it as we've introduced a service which is sort of like a relational database under the covers. But we've also introduced a service which is data connectors. So the ability from within Avalanche to reach out to a variety of data sources and pull those data sets in, whether it's ServiceNow or Salesforce.com, Teradata, an FTP server, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is Avalanche, from running in the cloud, can reach out to cloud-based or SaaS data sources or reach back into your on-prem systems, pull the data into Avalanche, and allow you to process the data as well. Now, given that there's all these connectors, you need to manage all of those data flows, and there's an integration management service that allows you, through a very easy-to-use dashboard, manage the data flow from all of those sources coming from cloud, coming from on-prem, coming from all over. So you can actually manage this at a production level. And that technology is also being used in production worldwide. So the idea behind the fully managed service with pre-built connectors is that Avalanche is more than just a database. It's a platform where services are being plugged in to allow you to do other things that you normally wouldn't have done with a traditional cloud data warehouse. And that's pretty compelling because over time, more and more of these services can come online. Going on to the operational savings, because of how we've architected Avalanche and how it works inside the cloud, we can give you really great price performance. And on this graph, you can see that if you start out with a very small system, these 3 respected databases pretty much are all around the same price point. But once you scale up to 1,000 users, you are now at almost $500,000 for Snowflake, 300-something thousand for Redshift. So what starts out as a very small price point and it fits into your budget, as that complexity grows, your budget's going to exponentially grow. And we've got these same numbers for a lot of other databases. We picked these two compared to Avalanche. Plus, you also have the ability, you can either run 24/7, which is fine, or you have the ability to shut down the service if you want. Depending on how you do your business terms, you can spin up and spin down Avalanche services for different business units. Maybe there's an emergency or there's a marketing campaign, spin it up, pull the data in, do the analysis, and shut it down. So you control how your spend is, you control the metering, you control all aspects of the service, which is quite compelling. Now, given all that, everything from the hybrid data to the performance at scale and the great price performance, you can start tying in advanced analytics and BI to do real-time updates of your dashboards. We've got customers that have live streaming data coming in, and their graphs are moving at real-time speed. We've got people on Wall Street, their SLAs is every query has to run less than 20 milliseconds. We've got constant feeds coming in batch, micro batch, all sorts of aspects of data feeding these advanced analytics. And whether you're running at terabytes, 10 terabytes, 100 terabytes, or even closer to a petabyte, which we've scaled this service up to in the cloud, you have that capability to get your answers done quite quickly. The other thing is, what about AI and ML? This allows you to not sample the data, load it all up, and start running your data science or AI and ML models. Open architecture to plug in those tools like Python, for example, to run your data science models. And given this service, you potentially could be running these models in the service as well, taking advantage of all that performance we have under the covers and all those capabilities, changing the way you can process AI or ML models, which gives you the ability to do fraud almost instantly. You can analyze customers as they check out at a cashier's thing. You can do network threat detection, telecom items, and so on. The idea behind it is that you're not limited to some sort of batch window, or you're limited to what the technology is. We've sort of taken those barriers off, and we now empower the business to do what they want to do at business speed versus waiting for some other technology to spin up. So as an overall, that's pretty much Avalanche at a high level. I'm going to go a couple levels down. I'm not going to go all the way down. I don't have enough time to go into a super deep dive. I just wanted to give you what the service is, why we built it, who's using it, and how you can interact with it. So if you all want to take a bite of your donut, by all means, go right ahead. It's donut break time. If you don't have one, I'll continue. So getting to production is quite easy. We can stand up a service in about 20 minutes, literally. Once you fill out the form, you click OK, you go, I'm in, the service is online. And once the service is online, depending on the size of the service and what you've configured, your choice, you load your data. You can load data from existing ETL streams, from Cloud Object Store like S3 and ADLS. You can load it from Spark streaming. You can load it from virtually anything, which means the loading of the data is easy, and it's all done through those third-party tools, or you can load it through SQL. Take your pick. Run a SQL command that says pull some data from S3 and load it into the service. And then if you have a variety of tools, they all work and plug in with Avalanche, whether it's Tableau or Qlik or Looker. It doesn't really matter. Power BI. We work with them all. And our customers have a large variety of those tools in production today. So it's easy to get going. It's easy to get into production, and then it's easy to hook up your tools and start doing the analysis. So the question on everybody's head is typically, how secure is this thing? I'm not putting my data in the cloud. I'm not putting my data in your service. I need to have the comfort level that if I put it up there, you're going to prevent everybody else and all those hundreds of thousands of bots out there from trying to hack into the service. So I've got a few security slides in the deck as well. But every service is single tenant. Every service is yours. We don't share anything amongst any of our customers. If company A sets up a service with Avalanche, they have nothing in terms of sharing anything with company B, which means you control access, you control the data. We've been in the cloud, fully managed service for 10 plus years, ever since the cloud literally started coming out of came out of AWS. We're in SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, and additional controls have been added to adhere to other compliances worldwide, GDPR, BCBS, HIPAA, so on and so on. So we've got experience in all of those compliances and all of those definitions of how you should govern and manage your data. The idea behind it is that you can think of Actian or Avalanche is we carve out a private cloud for you and we build a fortress around it. Only you can get in. Nobody else can get in. And then we have all the bits monitoring that for intrusion detection, prevention, active, passive. We've got SIMs collecting all the log data, which we can share with you. So we take security quite seriously when we talk about the Avalanche service. Now, not to talk about this entire slide, I just wanted to highlight at a high level what the service architecture looks like. In the green bars, there's quick starts to help you get up to speed quick, help you migrate, help you work with the connectors, because everything's new. Everybody needs a hand now and then. We also have all the services up top. I talked about, a database service being plugged in, sort of a process management service plugged in. Other services are in the offering as well, authentication, provisioning. And then we got all of the bits, the five big blocks that talks about performance, scale, security, hybrid, and extensibility. The idea behind this with FlexPath is you control the cost, you control what you spin up, how long it runs, when it shuts down. You can have a business term or a contract where you can spin up multiple clusters or spin up one big one. It's all dependent upon you. External data source ingestion, we've got mobile IoT feeding in. We've done Kafka, Spark streaming, and others. We can do native cloud pulling data from Salesforce, ServiceNow. We've got all those connectors in production. And the typical things like ETL, ODBC, JDBC. And on this side of the slide is all your BI, advanced analytics, and data science, AI, and ML world that those users live in. Now, what makes this service run at scale at enterprise grade? I'm not going to read all those. Everybody in this room can read the big bullets, but update capability. There's technology under the covers that allows you to do updates with zero penalty, and that includes running on Hadoop. So if you use Actian on a Hadoop stack, or Avalanche on a Hadoop stack, you can pretty much do insert, update, deletes without penalty, which is, the Hadoop community loves that. High concurrency in the middle. We can crunch through more workloads in more time and less time than other databases can. Essentially, we do more with less. If that was one thing you have to walk away from this talk is, we do more with less. Because of these enterprise-grade performance and simplicity and scalability, we've done countless benchmarks where one database vendor or one Hadoop stack used so much hardware, and we've used about a third or a quarter of it, and we still had better results. So because of our architecture, we can fully exploit the hardware that you purchase and use. One last couple slides is, a friend of mine in the UK always referred to operations as the boring bits because nobody really cares about it. Nobody cares about backup and restore. Nobody cares about DR, patching. We do all of that. The Avalanche service handles everything over here on the right side of on the slide. We take away all of the issues that people experience in the cloud. I mean, AWS has over 100 services in their offering. A lot of people don't necessarily know how to stitch all that together. They may start with something that may be over-provisioned, the costs ramp up. They don't necessarily know how to do it efficiently, so they waste time. All of this is constantly changing. Services pop up and go away. Instances or resources pop up and get retired. And one thing a lot of people don't know is what you build in one region may not run in the other region. All regions are not equal. So we handle all of that under the covers with Avalanche. There are a few things that we handle that I've kind of highlighted in bold and underlined, which is sort of a mutual shared responsibility between Actian and a customer. We need to understand your SLAs because we're held to the SLAs. We're held to your SLAs, whatever they are. We need to understand how do you want to integrate your firewalls with us. So there's certain aspects where we have touch points between the service and your company, and the other things we pretty much do behind the scenes. So in terms of operations, we've got regions scattered across the globe in the US and in the EU. It takes us about 2 weeks to stand up a new region. So if somebody wanted Australia or somebody wanted US West or Canada, it'll take us literally 2 weeks. We'll stand up the Avalanche service and move on. We've got in-country operations, and that's pretty big because in-country operations are really big in certain countries like Australia or Germany, where not only is your data supposed to be in country, but all of our operations have to be in that country. Otherwise, it violates compliance and security and in-country laws. So we stand up in-country operations behind the scenes. We also collect inside the service. Everything that happens in the service gets centrally logged. That means everything. That means anything from the operating system to third-party software, our software, your interaction. We dump it all in a centralized log. And that log is used for compliance, auditing, and security, and we can expose that log to your InfoSec and CSO organizations and compliance organizations. So you can pull that data back to your on-prem SIM and let them crunch through it for auditing purposes. All of this is 100% automated. There's no human being interaction with Avalanche. The Cloud Ops guys have built this, so we just click a button, it all stands up. If we had a human being typing in an IP address or doing whatever, that's going to result in a hack, and we can't get hacked, simple as that. And a lot of this is visible for you. So at any moment, you can go off and take a peek at the service, and we'll inform you with messages and emails as to, is the service up, is it down, and so on. So it's pretty much an easy thing to do in terms of interacting with the service. It was launched in March of this year. We've got about, I think it's like 40 plus people on it now, playing around with it. Some people are moving forward to production. Other people are just integrating their third-party technologies. It's available for free for you to try out. As you leave, Diana will hand you a little card where you can just log in. You get like $500 credit. Go play with it, see what you like, test your tools, test your data, interact with AWS S3. As I said, it runs in AWS now. Azure is coming out very quickly. We call it in preview mode, and at the end of the year, we'll be on Google. So we've been porting this thing across clouds. Those are the big three. I don't think we're going to do any other cloud vendors unless the market asks for it. I invite you to try it out. It's pretty compelling. And whether you want to play with the connectors, you want to load data from S3, you want to hook up your third-party tools, that's what we do at Actian. We move people from one system to another or offload from, say, a Netezza into Avalanche. Whatever it takes, that's what Actian does for a business in terms of cloud. So I thank you for your time. There are no more donuts, but I'm here all day. I'm happy to have a chat with you. Our booth is right behind that door over there. And I guess you guys are getting ready in a few minutes for your next keynote. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them as well. If not, back to the donuts. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.